Hello, I'm John Saunders with New Degree Press, today with another episode of Meet the Author, where we get a chance to meet the author behind the book. So many times we see authors, hear about them, hear their stories, but really don't get to feel and figure out who that person is. So that's what this program is about, a live look into it. Please join us in the chat and ask questions as we go. But today I have a very special guest with me, Payton Lynch. Payton published her book. Payton, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
It is so fun to have you. Payton published her book in April of 2021. Is that right?
Yep, you got it.
So here we are about a year later, and she's getting ready to put her audiobook out into the world, which is pretty darn exciting and has had a lot of exciting developments over this past year. So I want to check back in with her, catch up with her on what's been going on, and then make sure we dig very deeply into the Meet the Author questions, which are hard-hitting, very important, and really get a sense of who this person is. But Payton, great to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, as I said, I'm so excited to be here, and there has been a ton since we last spoke on the other versions of the New Degree Press podcast and YouTube shows and things of that nature. As you mentioned, the audiobook and the hardcover all launched within that time too. So it's been an exciting ride. And so I'm excited to come back and chat about what's been going on.
It is awesome to have you back. And Payton's books are available on Amazon, wherever you buy books online today. And her podcast episode of the creator community from New Degree Press is available wherever you get podcasts out there, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you like to consume those. But Payton, what was it like making an audiobook for those who might not have ever done it before?
You know, while I work in tech now, and that's the career path I'm in today, I started as a musical theater major. And so I just felt like this was a great transition to be able to tap into that creative side again. Writing the book, first of all, right? It takes a lot of, those creative juices to get flowing. But then to be able to translate that into sound also took a lot of creativity, as well as that public speaking background that a lot of people in that theater world have. So I was able to really lean into that, and it was a lot of fun. It was a ton of work, I won't lie. There were many evenings spent in a soundproofed room, and making sure, the joys of being from home. We all know I've got two dogs that I love, but the barking from the the peanut gallery is just not what you need while recording. So, and I know as a published audiobook author as well, you probably understand all of those pains. But to be able to tell this story myself was worth every minute that I spent, crafting it and taking the time to make sure that my own voice was added to it. So was definitely worth it. And now to see the finished product out there in the world, it's very exciting.
That's really cool. For me, I live not too far from Washington, D.C., just a mile or two. And I'm in a high helicopter district. And they seem to like to fly over my house when I'd be working. I swear, every time I sat down to record my book, like a helicopter would fly over. I have to stop and pause the whole thing.
It's Murphy's Law every time.
And wait for the helicopter, wait for Marine One to go flying over. That is awesome. Payton Lynch, Rise from the Ashes, Stories of Trauma, Resilience, and Growth from Children of 9/11. It's hard to believe that was 20 years ago. Can you believe it?
I still can't. And
21 years ago, right?
Right. Well, yeah. And to think, the reason I wrote this story is because my husband lost his father that day. And, I've only been connected to this story in such a personal way for as long as I've known him. So about 10 years. And so to imagine and just see the impact that it has on his life and then his family, it really brings it down to a much more personal level. And it's crazy to imagine and see how our world has changed, and even some of the parallels we see in, we can never compare a national tragedy like 9/11 to anything else, right? It is its own thing. But there have certainly been policies and things that have come out of it that are very similar to things that we've seen after living through a pandemic, right? I mean, they're both life-changing events, very different, but still very impactful on our lives. And to think we've lived through both of them. I saw something the other day. It was like, I just want to stop being a part of things that are in history books. And it's like, yeah, when is it going to stop? And, I think the thing is we know that the world doesn't stop turning. These things do keep happening. We hope that we will develop the tools so that they do, but the reality is things happen, right? And so it's learning those tools and how we cope with them and how do we become resilient through them, that I have really benefited from in learning these stories.
I mean, it's hard to believe, right? It seems like every time we turn in the headlines, of course, the just horrific news coming out of Eastern Europe right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to be thinking very much about some of the key concepts in your book in the months and years to come. I worked in the World Trade Center. That's where I started my career, and was in that building 2 days before it fell to the ground. My wife was due to go to work that day in the building. Fortunately, she was late. And, I know there's so many stories out there about that. So she never went in, which is just, just unbelievable to think about.
Yeah.
But I invited a lot of my friends from New York to the call today because I thought they might enjoy hearing a bit about your story. What would be, if you were, now that you've had a chance to sort of reflect and digest your book a bit, now that it's been out a year, Payton, what would you say would be one of the key lessons from your story?
I would say the biggest thing is not rushing the grief process. I think, I was able to apply a lot of my own personal challenges that I went through, that I've been going through in the past few years, to what I've seen my husband experience and other 9/11 surviving children experience. And just the quickness that I personally would always have to just fix it, right? Like grief means I'm broken, and me being sad means I'm broken. So I need to just fix it and get over it. But the reality is that grief is not a straight line. We're all on a different path, and it's likely 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that is okay. And so giving yourself that space to grieve, acknowledging it, and recognizing that every day isn't going to be perfect, right? Even though 21 years has passed, that doesn't mean that the feelings that we have go away associated to it. And so just having that grace for yourself is something that I'm not perfect at, and I need to take more of the lessons that I've learned and keep applying them. But I've heard from a lot of folks who have read it that that's one of the biggest things that they've got out of the book.
What a beautiful message. I can tell you to this day, my wife, if a show or a documentary or anything about 9/11 comes on TV, she leaves the room. She won't even, or turns it off. She just won't even watch it. She still doesn't like to see it even 20 years later.
And knowing those boundaries too. I mean, that's another huge lesson, like understanding where we're comfortable and we're not, and being able to speak up and say, I need to remove myself from that situation. That is huge, right? Because so many times I just do things because everyone else is, or what have you. And you know what, saying I'm not okay with this. This is going to harm me and have a negative impact, and being able to step up and say, you know what, I'm stepping away. So, I mean, that is a piece of resiliency there alone in what you've seen with your wife.
Just have that awareness, right? And you talked, I think, in your book about triggers and maybe some ideas around that. Anything we miss on that you might want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can't always avoid our triggers, right? So it's important to find those opportunities where we can and avoid where we can. But that said, there's also a lot we can do to regulate our emotions. And a lot of great tips I had from some of the psychologists that I had the opportunity to speak with actually mentioned using physical means to help change the way that you're feeling in that moment. So a lot of them mentioned using hot or cold items. So holding an ice cube in your hand when you're in that moment and something is triggering you, because you'll have to actually focus on the coldness in your hand, right? So it's giving you something else to get yourself out of that immediate space. Some also mentioned taking a hot shower, right? Like finding those opportunities where if you can't immediately in the moment remove yourself, but looking for those other opportunities. Another great one, I use this sometimes if I just got out of a stressful meeting. It's like count the circles on the wall, or I have they're called tsum tsums. They're these tiny little characters that are stackable. And so I'll count those, and just it allows me to put focus on something else while I'm able to regulate my own body in that way.
What a great bit of practical advice that we can apply very easily. Thank you for sharing that. And for those who don't know, Payton is an employee of what was the name of your company again?
The Walt Disney Company.
Oh, the Walt Disney Company, right? They're in Florida, California, a few other places. Payton is to say that you would be a passionate Disney employee, would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely. I'm a self-proclaimed Disney-phile. It's always been my dream to work here. So to be able to live it out, it's like I'm constantly pinching myself. It's pretty awesome.
And I think you were living somewhere else and wanted to work there and uprooted yourself to move there. Is that the story?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a full-time salary job in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I was recently married. Shocking. We got married at Disney. But we were married. And I really knew I wanted to work for Disney. Loved the company I was at, but it wasn't Disney. So I left that full-time salaried position for a 6-month internship with Disney. My husband at the time had no job. We literally just made our way down to Florida. I had like 2 months to move, and it was the best decision I ever made. And I feel very fortunate that the path did work out for me, because I know it is a very competitive landscape. There's a lot of folks very interested in the Walt Disney Company. But I kind of just said in my head, I'm not just staying for 6 months. I'm staying like long term. So
put a stake in the ground.
I sure did. And someone agreed with that, because they've kept me on for the past 6 years. And it's really, truly been a magical time.
And you've had a promotion since your book came out. Is that right?
I did. Yes. I was recently promoted from a senior product manager to a lead product manager. So getting some, thank you. Getting some leadership opportunities under my belt, which is really what I'm passionate about, is, empowering others and giving them opportunities to shine.
I love it. One quick nugget about Disney and investing, sort of my longer term background. My parents bought an investment for me when I was a young kid, and I still own it to this day. It's a large cap value fund. So I passed on the same to my children. And I said, let's do it with a stock. What stock should we buy? Would you like to guess what stock we bought?
Let me guess. It's got Mickey ears. And
DIS. That's right. Aww. So they are shareholders of Disney. I love it. So with that, let's dive into the rapid fire questions. So
sure.
People can really get to know this amazing person that is Payton Lynch, and the person behind the person behind the book here.
Let's do it.
You ready for the rapid fire?
Always.
Here we go. So Payton Lynch, Rise from the Ashes author. And if you want to get her book, it's available anywhere online. Her audiobook is out any day now, and a hardcover book as well. And if you want to see her full-length podcast, that's available on the creator community on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. So let's dive in here. Payton, I think the most important question to start with is your favorite sandwich. I think that's a good one to know.
Yes, I love this one. So it's actually pretty recent for me, but a Cuban sandwich.
Oh, so good.
I went to Key West for the first time last year, and we ended up going twice in like a month, because we just loved it so much. And, the Cuban food there, I mean, other than being in Cuba, it's pretty darn good. So the Cuban, that's mine.
Having lived in Florida and traveled all around the state for 12 years or so in Puerto Rico, can I give you, have you been to Columbia restaurant in Celebration?
Yes, amazing. Is it 1985 salad or what have you? It's so good.
I get their Cuban sandwich, actually.
There you go. Now I need to get that.
And the other one is at Gloria Estefan's restaurant in Vero Beach in the hotel. Those are like my two favorite places to get.
All right. I'm going to have to check that one out, because I have not been there.
It's right on the beach in Vero Beach.
All right.
Moving on. Favorite color, Payton?
Pink.
Ah, so good. This is going to be a tough one, I think, for you. Favorite or most memorable vacation spot?
Oh, I don't know. Disney.
Should we say it can't be a Disney?
That's fine. I mean, that's totally fine. I made this my home, so I wouldn't have to vacation here anymore, because I would never go anywhere else. But I think after that, we went to Kenya and Tanzania on safari, and it was the best time of my life. I could go there every year. I know I have the rest of the world to see, but the animals, the people we got to interact with, it just was life-changing, eye-opening, just incredible experience. We camped in the Serengeti. I mean, it felt so authentic, but yeah, spending time on safari was an amazing trip.
And this wasn't the Disney safari. This was the actual one in Africa. Is that what I'm hearing?
It was actually the one in Africa.
Just wanted to make sure.
My husband actually used to work at the one at Disney. And so we knew about all the animals and all these facts. And everyone's like, how do you know all this? I'm like, well, there's this theme park in Florida and, 20-minute safari. So
I will tell you, having taken my family to Disney a little bit before the pandemic, that was my favorite ride. And the days we spent there was the safari ride at Animal Kingdom, I think.
It's incredible. And it really is pretty authentic. I mean, obviously a real safari is a lot longer and there's some more risk involved, but just to hear the expertise that the cast there have about the animals, it's pretty incredible. They do a great job.
One of my favorite pictures from that very day was a giraffe who reached over to my son was sitting by the window. His face was like this far from my son's face.
So cool.
Like, what is going on? Favorite Disney park? Are you allowed to say that as a Disney employee?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course I love them all, but Magic Kingdom, it's the classic, right? I love the castle, the reimagining where they painted it and it's now a little bit pink, so I'm living my pink dreams at the Magic Kingdom.
Good. So good. Have you ever dressed up as one of the characters?
They do have the Not So Scary Halloween party. And so we do go there and that's the one time adults are allowed to dress up. So we go all out on the costumes.
I have to ask, what'd you go with?
We have done so many things. We did Jessica and Roger Rabbit one time. We've done, what else have we done? Now, nothing will come to mind. We did Festival of the Lion King characters. If you've seen that show, we did the Finding Nemo characters from the show at Animal Kingdom as well. Oh my gosh. We have Hocus Pocus characters. Nightmare Before Christmas. We did Lock, Shock, and Barrel. I mean, we'll go multiple times a year to the party, and my husband, he makes all the costumes from scratch, so it's always a blast.
I mean, I'm sensing an Etsy business if it doesn't exist already here with costumes.
Seriously, I mean, he does such a good job. People are always asking it if he can make them. So
thinking back to maybe the trip to Africa changed your viewpoint on this. What is the scariest animal?
Scariest animal? I think it's the hippo. Every time I think about, I think it does cause the most amount of deaths in Africa or something.
Oh, really?
So that stat really freaks me out. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I had heard. And sometimes I'll just see videos of them chasing after boats, and I'm like, nope, they seem docile and they're just hanging out, but they've got some pretty big teeth, and I wouldn't want to mess with them. So.
Interesting. How about this one? Better fruit, apples or bananas?
Oh man. I'm going to go with bananas.
Wrong.
It's okay. We're all
Favorite movie? What do you got? That's going to be a tough one for you, I bet.
That one's Tangled for me. I love that movie. Love Rapunzel.
Fun. Favorite smell?
I love popcorn on Main Street, USA.
Main Street, USA at Disney or?
Yes, Magic Kingdom.
Got it.
Yep.
Last photo on your phone?
Last photo. All right. Let's see. I'm being called out now. Oh, it's a picture of breakfast. How about that? And funny enough, it was I have a Mickey egg maker. So it cooks it as the shape of a Mickey head. So there you go.
Why does that not surprise me in the least at all?
So on brand, right?
Right. Where did we leave off here? Favorite song to sing with or without an audience?
Oh, right now it's anything from Encanto. I love the music from that. I won't even say the name of the song that's in everybody's head. But I even love Surface Pressure. Oh, it's a great song.
We watched that recently. That was a fun one with my
good
guys. If you weren't working at Disney, what would you be doing?
It's hard to even imagine what that would be. But I was a musical theater major, as I shared before I went into the tech field. And so I thought maybe I'd be on Broadway, but even then I was like, I kind of want to dance down Main Street. So all my paths sort of led me to Disney, I think.
I think you should connect with Allison Hernandez, season 3 podcast, who wrote a book that she's trying to turn into I'm going to say will turn into a Broadway play.
Yes.
Just a really great story there. Ballad of Dreams. What's one thing you really need to throw out, Payton?
Oh,
And
well, we just,
it can't be your husband's thing. I'm
yes,
just going to
yeah,
put it out
no,
there.
no.
Valeria. Uh,
We just moved, so we did a lot of throwing things out. But I'm not good at buying new clothes because I'm 4'11". I've been 4'11" since like 7th grade. So for the most part, things just fit. But I could probably use to like go through and throw the things away that have holes or like are severely out of style. So.
some clothes. I love it. Favorite. What's your most audacious goal for 2022?
I think my biggest goal right now is actually focusing on slowing down and being more intentional with my time. I did a ton in 2021. As you know, it was a challenging year for so many people. Our businesses every business was impacted. And my husband was laid off, and I felt like I was just like running, to make up for that, right, and fill the space in what was a really challenging time. And then I never felt like I was doing enough. And still, I look back and I'm like, I wrote a book in that time too. Like, at what point is it going to be enough for me? And it's no one's expectations but my own. So I know that when I do slow down and be more intentional, the quality of my work is going to, be way better than anything that I can do in quantity. So I'm just looking forward to being more intentional, regrounding, finding out what's important to me instead of being the yes man to every opportunity that comes my way.
What a great message for 2022. I mean, we're all running so fast from Zoom to Zoom, right? All of these things, like, let's take a pause here once in a while. Take it easy. I think this is part of the great resignation, right? People are starting to rethink their priorities a little bit, and really appreciate you sharing that thought. Let's do a few more about the book and we'll wind this thing out. Thank you everyone for joining in today with Payton Lynch, author of Rise from the Ashes, has her new audiobook out and hardcover book. Favorite praise quote from the book, Payton?
I was able to meet with the Daily Mail, which is a pretty big British tabloid, to say, and having the opportunity for them to review the book and also do a big write-up on it on the day of 9/11 was so impactful. And it was definitely the biggest review that I had. So that means a lot. And also the one I got from Tuesday's Children organization, just because we did do so much together to raise funds for that organization. That I think was the most impactful, because to know that they cared so deeply about this story as well, seeing all that they've seen was really, really touching.
And Tuesday's Children is a nonprofit to support children of 9/11, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Most bizarre or unique moment in your writing journey?
I think it was when I had the opportunity to interview one of my husband's brothers. So it was actually my husband is the oldest son in the family, second oldest in the 5 of them, and then the brother that I interviewed is the youngest. And so he is 21 and was like a 1-year-old at the time of 9/11. So to be able to hear his experience and how it differs from my husband, who's in the same exact family, it was just so fascinating. And
he never knew his dad, right?
He never knew. And so I think I am always having this thought, at least during that process, it was like, is it better to have lived and known, or better to have been born later and not know, that, but they're both not great, if I'm being honest. But I think the way that they've recovered is so interesting to see where their paths have been parallel, or the same things have worked for them, or where things are very different, right? For my husband, comfort objects are huge for him. He has a ton of things that belonged to his dad because he remembers his dad wearing them or using those items. And those types of things don't resonate the same way for his brother. But there's other things that do. And so they found different ways to make that connection with their dad, which is really, really interesting.
That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. And I don't think we mentioned it at the front end, Peyton's husband's father ran back into the World Trade Center to help other people. And that's why he didn't get out.
Yep, absolutely. He was honored with a Medal of Valor at the White House, I believe 4 years after, and was one of the only citizens that was being honored with that award. So really, really incredible legacy that I know his family's grateful to carry on.
Unbelievable story, and how great of you to celebrate it in such a permanent and wonderful form in the book, and to offer so many lessons and practical tips to help people that are maybe even still dealing with this or another trauma in their lives. What would you say to someone who's thinking about writing a book, Payton? A working person like yourself, how do you get a book done? What would you tell that person?
I would tell them you don't do it alone, and that you just got to step into it, right? It's taking that first step. And if you're not doing it alone and you're surrounded by people who can guide you and get you to that next step, I don't need to know what the last step is at step one, right? If I have people guiding me through. And so as someone who hadn't written a book before, but was super passionate about it, having a team of people within New Degree Press, within the Creators Institute was key, because it kept me accountable too. So making sure that others know what you're doing, I would say, is also really critical, because it kept me in check so many times to make sure that amongst working my full-time job and having a life, that this got done.
Community publishing, very powerful. Last question for author Payton Lynch. Your writing journey in 5 words.
Oh, okay. Inspiring.
Love it.
I don't know how else to say this, but like stretching, like it stretched me. Challenging. Impactful. And wonderful.
What a beautiful list. Author Payton Lynch. Now we know everything there is to know about you.
There you go.
Thank you for jumping on the episode today. Payton Lynch's book is available wherever you buy books online. Audiobook is out now with, or is it out yet? Or is it?
It's out, yeah.
It's out. Audiobook is available wherever you buy books online. Audible, paperback, hardcover book. They're all out there. If you want to learn more about the publishing journey, check out newdegreepress.com. If you want to follow Payton, I think I've got your handle here, Payton Meets World on Instagram, right? But
yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us and listening in today. Payton, thank you so much for taking the time. Great to see. If you could hang around for one more minute, I'd truly appreciate it. But we will have another, about every week, we've got a new episode of Meet the Author coming up. Next week, we're going to have Terry McDougall. So I hope to see you all next week. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, everybody. Great to see you, Payton.
Thank you.